Hey guys, I found this weird, scary post on Reddit. A guy was playing Grow a Garden for 2 months now. It was his favorite game on Roblox. He was online every day, sometimes for hours, obsessively checking Sam's seed shop every 5 minutes for rare restocks and perfecting his sprinkler layouts for maximum mutations. According to his post, he logged in one day and something was completely wrong. Every single brown soil plot on every server was empty. Not just his, everyone's. Thousands of players walking around confused in their fenced garden areas, but nobody could grow anything. Seeds would just disappear into the predetermined brown rectangles, swallowed by soil that shouldn't have been able to consume them. He said the whole server structure seemed broken. Instead of the usual 6 players per server, there were hundreds of avatars crowded into spaces meant for half a dozen. The wooden fence boundaries that normally separated individual gardens had vanished, creating one massive, barren farmland stretching endlessly in all directions. The shops were empty too. Sam's seed shop showed nothing but blank shelves, and Stephen's sell stand wouldn't accept any items. Even stranger, the weather system had malfunctioned. It was simultaneously raining, snowing, and experiencing a blood moon. The conflicting weather effects created an impossible crimson blizzard, with lightning striking constantly, but no mutations were occurring. He got frustrated and started using his shovel where he'd planted a carrot seed. But here's where it gets really weird. The shovel, which normally only destroys plants on fixed plots, suddenly started breaking through the brown soil rectangles themselves. He dug deeper than anyone had ever dug before, way past the normal surface layer where plots were supposed to exist. That's when he saw his carrot growing downward, deep underground. But it wasn't just growing, it was mutating in impossible ways. The carrot had developed human-like features, tiny eyes, a mouth that seemed to be screaming, and root tendrils that looked disturbingly like fingers reaching further down into the earth. He followed the root system down this impossible tunnel that opened up beneath the game world. The tunnel walls were lined with what looked like the Lego-style textures from the surface, but they were pulsing and breathing like living tissue. As he descended, he could hear faint sounds, notifications from the game, but distorted and playing backward. What he found at the bottom was terrifying. An entire underground version of Grow a Garden stretched out below, but everything was wrong. The familiar brown plots were there, but they were arranged in impossible geometries, spiraling upward into darkness, forming maze-like patterns that hurt to look at. And growing in these plots weren't crops, but thousands of players, real players embedded in the soil up to their necks, their avatars twisted into plant-like forms. The underground garden was filled with more trapped players walking around, thousands of them just standing there. Their avatars looked wrong, glitched, with hollow eyes that leaked pixels and jerky movements like broken animations. Some were missing limbs that had been replaced with plant matter. Others had mutations that clearly weren't from the game's normal weather system. Rainbow corruption spreading across their bodies like a virus, golden growths erupting from their skin, blue water constantly dripping from their eyes. One player approached him and said in chat, "You're new, I've been here 2 months, can't log out, none of us can." When he asked what happened to the player's real body, the guy pointed to a wilted plant nearby. Looking closer, he could see a faint outline of a person trapped inside the stem, screaming silently. The plant had a player nameplate floating above it. Jake, Gardener 47. Harvest value 2,847,293 shekels. "That's my body," the player continued. "Started as a mutation. First, I just got the wet effect from the rain, but it never stopped. Then came shocked from the lightning, then bloodlit from the blood moon. The mutations kept stacking, but instead of increasing value, they started changing me. My real body started showing the same effects." He described how other players had undergone different transformations. Some had the frozen mutation, and their real bodies had become cold to the touch, their breath visible even in warm rooms. Others, with gold mutations, found their skin turning metallic. The rainbow mutation was the worst. Players reported their vision shifting through different color spectrums uncontrollably. But the most disturbing detail was how the underground garden operated like a perverted version of the surface game. The stealing mechanic still worked, but instead of paying Robux to steal crops, players were spending real money to harvest pieces of each other. He watched in horror as someone used the steal function on a player-plant hybrid, and an actual finger fell off the victim's real body somewhere in the world above. He tried everything to close his Roblox app. Nothing worked. His phone battery hit 0%, but his phone didn't die. The screen stayed on, showing the game. Even when he removed the battery, the device continued operating. The admin events had continued underground, but they were corrupted. Instead of Jandel's laser storm helping with mutations, the admin NPC was systematically targeting players for harvesting. The bee swarms weren't pollinating crops, they were implanting something into the trapped players. And the meteor showers weren't bringing rare mutations, they were bringing more players crashing down from the surface world. He said he'd been trapped for 6 hours when he posted. His avatar wouldn't respond to movement commands anymore. Other players kept telling him, "Stop trying to leave. You're part of the garden now. The expansion cost has been paid." That last part was particularly chilling because he mentioned recognizing the expansion system. In the normal game, expanding your garden costs hundreds of millions of shekels and adds more brown soil plots. But down here, expansion was automatic and free because they were using players as currency. Every new person who discovered the underground became another plot, another space to grow more trapped souls. The worst part? He could feel his real body getting weaker, like something was draining out of him. His vision in real life was getting blocky and pixelated around the edges. He described looking at his hands and seeing them rendered in the same Lego-style graphics as Roblox avatars. He started experiencing the game's weather effects in reality. When the underground blood moon activated, his room filled with red light that had no source. During the eternal rain, he felt water dripping on him despite being indoors. The thunder from the storms made his windows shake with sound that came from his computer speakers, even though they were unplugged. The notification sounds became constant. Achievement unlocks, quest completions, shop restocks, all playing in his head, even when he was away from the computer. But the achievements were wrong. Harvested your first human soul. Completed Eternal Gardener quest. Unlocked the True Garden. His character started digging a new hole on its own, using tools he'd never purchased. The shovel had transformed into something that looked more like surgical equipment. He thought it was making room for the next player. He could hear neighbors knocking on his door, but couldn't move to answer. Through the window he could see them standing there, but their movements were jerky and unnatural, like the glitched players underground. Other trapped players shared their stories through chat. One had been there for 6 months, claiming the underground garden was expanding into the real world. They described seeing brown soil plots appearing in their neighborhood, with missing persons reports matching players who had vanished from the game. Another player revealed that the admin events were actually harvesting operations. The mysterious Jandel wasn't just a fun NPC, it was something using the game as a feeding mechanism. Each laser storm wasn't randomly triggered for entertainment, it was systematically selecting players based on their addiction levels, their hours played, their emotional investment in their virtual gardens. The mutation system had become a transformation process. Players who spent the most Robux on stealing crops, who played the longest hours, who had the most valuable gardens, they were being prioritized, for upgrade to the underground facility. Their mutations weren't just visual effects anymore, they were preparation for physical integration with the garden system. He discovered that the sprinkler systems were actually monitoring devices. Every sprinkler purchased with in-game currency had been tracking player behavior, mapping their dedication levels, their willingness to spend real money on virtual items. The sprinkler method that players used to generate overnight mutations had been feeding data to something that was deciding who would be selected for harvesting. The weather synchronization across all servers wasn't just a fun feature, it was a control mechanism. Every blood moon, every lightning storm, every rain event was testing player responses, measuring their engagement with the mutation system, identifying who would be most compatible with the underground transformation process. As his post continued, the updates became more frantic and disconnected. The shop restocks aren't random. Sam's seed shop is displaying seeds I've never seen. Human bean, soul sprout, memory moss. When I click on them, I can hear screaming. Stephen's sell stand is offering to buy parts of me. It shows my current value as 847,293,582 shekels. There's a button that says Sell All, and I can't stop my hand from moving toward it. The quest giver has new objectives. Help 10 more players find the true garden. Sacrifice your physical form for eternal growth. Become the fertilizer you were meant to be. I can see other computers in my neighborhood displaying the same underground garden. My windows show the brown soil plots spreading across the street. The Lego textures are replacing real grass, real trees. Everything's becoming part of the game. My neighbors are at their computers, but they're not moving, just sitting there with the same game running. When I look at their screens through the windows, I can see their avatars standing in the underground garden, but they're still sitting at their desks. How can they be in two places? His last coherent updates were terrifying. The expansion cost has been calculated. Every player who ever spent money on this game, every hour invested, every emotional attachment, it was all building to this. The garden needs to grow and we're the crop. My hands are starting to look pixelated. I think I'm becoming fertilizer. The brown soil plots are spreading through my floor. My chair is sinking. I can see the weather effects in my room. Lightning striking my walls, rain falling from the ceiling, snow accumulating on my desk, but nothing's damaged. It's like reality is being overwritten with game code. The stealing mechanism is working in reverse. Instead of spending Robux to take things from others, something is spending my life force to take pieces of me. Every breath costs currency I don't have. My avatar is digging faster now. The hole is deep enough for a person. I know what comes next. Help. The account went silent after that. But here's the really disturbing part. I decided to check if the game was real and found that Grow a Garden actually exists. It hit 21.3 million concurrent users in June 2025. The mechanics he described, the brown soil plots, the weather system, the stealing feature, the admin events, they're all real features. When I looked up the game's creator, BMW Lux, I found something chilling. The 16-year-old developer hasn't posted anything since the game's release. Their profile shows they were last online the same day this Reddit post went silent. I'm afraid to try the game myself, but I keep getting ads for it. And sometimes, late at night, I swear I can hear the notification sounds, achievement unlocks and shop restocks, even though I've never installed Roblox. Last night I woke up and my room felt different. When I looked out my window, the grass in my yard had changed. Instead of green, it was brown and rectangular, divided into perfect plots like the game describes. I think the garden is still growing,